We're going to talk about the market itself coming up here, but back and forth we go. A little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, back to basically break even at the moment. Down 0.15 there for the S&P, the Dow about 0.07. Same story for the NASDAQ, a tenth to the downside. We've been back and forth all morning long, and now into the afternoon, more of the same. 2.15 here for crude oil. Just had a spike to the downside on crude futures there, but was basically right back to day highs, still up 2% on the session. Bitcoin and Ethereum chopping around here. I was going to show you the board here to see how things are shaping up. There we go. A little more red seeping back in here as we head through the afternoon. Twitter, I noticed, back towards the lows here, 4.5%. More kind of rumors rumbling around in the background about this deal with Elon, possibly. Is it going to go through? Is it not going to go through? FCX here. Resource stocks, big bounce yesterday. We're back to the downside for these today. So the material sector under pressure. Banks had a bit of a bid early on, but have given all of that back and then some back in negative territory for financial stocks. Here's the healthcare group. This was leading. This was over here early on this morning, but we're seeing a little more red creeping back in to healthcare stocks. There is positivity in the semiconductor group here within the tech sector. ENPH, SEDG, ON, QCOM, to name a few. Micron was up as well, 0.7, all coming off of huge moves yesterday. QCOM on a Samsung headline, talking about the S23 there, possibly going to be the sole chip provider for Samsung and their new Galaxy S23. Is it still a Galaxy phone? I have to double check that. I have no idea. I used to have a Galaxy phone, but it's been a while. Tesla, the last one I wanted to talk about here. Thanks, Lucas. Nice day for Tesla, 3% still. Some of the travel names as well, still red on the day overall. So choppy, and more choppy for a Friday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. Hope your morning was a profitable one. It has been an interesting day. A lot of opportunities overall. Crazy small cap movers once again today, some of which have done nothing but go straight to the downside. If you were involved, congratulations. If you missed them, like I did, yeah, a little bit frustrating overall. But let's jump into our review, shall we? We'll talk about what we were dealing with in the pre-market this morning, the opportunities that were available to you, figure out how you did, what we can do better, always looking to do better on, Monday this week. Last week was a long weekend. This is coming up Monday. Neal's here. He's going to lead the way with a look at one of his trades.
It's AMC today for the trade of the day. Yesterday, GameStop had a catalyst. I traded that instead of AMC on the Adam Aaron tweet, and that was a big-time boomer, much more simple trade in AMC. And today, I kind of came in determined if it was going to look at one of the two stocks, it was going to definitely be AMC. But you've got to have a trade idea first. You might like that long. We sort of said in the afternoon show, if we hold 14, I'm probably going to like the long going into tomorrow. Possibly some opportunities, but I always start with a higher time frame. That 15-minute chart shows you just how explosive AMC was. And you can't chase yesterday's profits. What you can do is kind of learn from that mistake. Clean breakout off the high at 13. You had consolidation here at 1380. Now, if you remember back a couple of weeks ago, 1380 was a pretty good level for us trading this stock. So always had that one marked off, the 14 even. You can see a little bit of support on the secondary move up, and then a 1470 top. So those are the things that we're concerned with going into the open trade. I always have a saying, like, if it doesn't break the low, there's only one place for it to go. It's kind of obvious, right? Like, if a stock doesn't break support, well, it's got to go up from that support. Doesn't mean it's going to moonshot, but if it's got a strong catalyst, if it is a strong name, if it has momentum behind it, then you've got yourself a trading opportunity. The whipsaw action at 9:30 has been kind of ridiculous, and if there's one thing I've sort of been telling myself, it's if you have an idea that's valid at the open, but you don't take the trade because you're looking at other things. Today it would have been Upstart. Today it would have been Meta, Amazon, Alibaba, so many other names that we're looking at. If you miss out on your opportunities or you get shaken out of your opportunities, come back at about 10 o'clock and look to see if it's still valid. That's exactly what happens. You run the low, actually hold at 1380. That's a positive sign. You then break out the top, fail at 1420. That's always been a number on the stock. And then you retest the bottom. And the second we hold that 1380 again, or above that 1380, I want that long. Now, I'm always anticipating, and this is probably where the mistake comes in. I got this line at 1420 on this stock. And for whatever reason, 420, 1420, sometimes it's resistance on it. I see some size in that price, and I'm going to scalp some off. I go 14 to 1420. That exit deserves to be around 30s. It's only 10 cents, but it should be off that first high. From there, the jailbreak is on. One of the things that we mentioned yesterday, and I still believe certainly today, was that $15 level. You had gravity pulling you towards it, and I said I'll be out of longs and looking for a short opportunity at 15, even if it ever got there. And that's how this played out. However, on the way there, you still had a nice 1450 halfway break. Initially looked like it was going to fail that breakout, but it takes some off, and then you get the spike up to 15. If there was only one trade you had if you missed the move, if you look at this candle, why is there such a big candle there? That's 1470. That's yesterday's high. And when it took out that what was, at the time would have been a double top, that's why you get that sharp spike to the upside. I'm using that to get out. I do try the short, like I said I would. It was a failed break. I probably could have gotten back into it and scalped 20 cents. Fair enough. I opted not to at that point. I was still thinking you had a chance to break out from 15. So when we took out that high, I was able to get in, and then it just rejected 1530. I mean, that was a wall up there at the top. You had GameStop making tops as well. So we end up just start going into scalp dip buying. Probably too early to try that 15 area, but the real level where I've been loading back in is that 1470. And this is the thing. Really, all you needed to have a look at was a couple of key price areas that you got from yesterday. Whether it was the high at 1470, whether it was that even 14 when you had late afternoon support and some support on the early move, or that 1380, which was both initial resistance and a huge level the last time we traded around that price. That's all we needed to be able to structure the long trade. It allowed you to stay in position. There were some re-entries along the way, but this was one of those ones where you kind of wanted to hold. You didn't want to be scalping too much because you had so much room to the upside, even if it was just 14 to 1470 or 1470 to 15. Those are all pretty clear moves. Let's see if it can hold in the afternoon, but AMC's been a gorgeous long. Certainly GME would have been good today too, but AMC, after yesterday, was determined to trade this one instead.
Yeah, it's interesting how they tend to pop up on the same days all the time. GME, obviously, with more news today coming off of the stock split earlier in the week that we were discussing. So GME and AMC back in action once again today. Great opportunity to the long side. Tons of opportunities on that this morning. Once again, make sure you grab the watch list, guys. Free for you every single day. We had a number of different ideas on there once again this morning, including GameStop, as I said. Just wanted to mention quickly, though, Apple here trying to get back to the highs. We're going to talk about tech coming up here, but Apple trying to get back to the highs. Just had a little bit of volume going off on Apple. Also mentioned this. Quickly bring this over, show you. Crude oil back to the downside here. A little bit of sell volume came in, got rejected at 105. Frank Caberna coming up from the small exchange. He's going to talk a little bit about the U.S. dollar. He's going to talk about, rates inverted again for, I think, the third time this year, which is crazy. So we'll get a little bit from Frank on what that means overall for the economy and talk a little bit of recession with Frank Caberna coming up here in about 45 minutes or so. Here goes Apple taking out that high right now, guys. So monster job beat this morning, and we were wondering at the time whether good news would be good news or good news would be bad news, and it would appear we're trying to make it good news.
The market's still trying to figure it out. That's essentially what's happening. You see these aggressive moves in one direction, then the opposite direction, and here we are back to the upside. So clearly, there's large players on both sides thinking that this could be good. One side saying this could be good, one side saying this could be bad, and trying to make some guesses on what the Fed's going to do, and that's what you're seeing. This market's whipping around 20, 30 points at a time. So here we are, kind of just waiting for the market to decide. Can you decide to the downside? Because as you can see on my board, I am short by a lot. So downside would be most helpful for me.
Like you're saying, it's still deciding. I 100% agree with you. I just think you got to play at individual names here, right? So, there's some shorts to be had in the relatively weak names. I just got back into Meta myself, and we'll talk individual names to be sure. But on the Apple front in particular, it's interesting. When we did the morning preparation, I don't really trade Apple that much. I kind of feel like it just follows the futures, and sometimes you just got to go to it. I'm going to pull back to the daily chart to show you the 50 period we closed above the 50 period yesterday. We knew we were going to open above it. And I sort of looked at that as a level and said, yeah, you should probably have some support there. Why not? That's 145 on Apple. And then what happens at the open? Like essentially, you know, we broke it in the pre-market when we had the numbers come out, and then you reclaim 145, and it's just been support ever since. Like, if I pop back over to the 3 minutes to see what that looks like for you, we rally off the open, we pull back, hit 145.11. That's your 50 period simple on the daily, and rally to the high. Where do we bounce in the afternoon? 145.50. So we bounce off it again. So I mean, Apple, we're not going anywhere without the big boys, and it's going to be hard for this to be a red day without Apple rejecting the top. But that 145 area on Apple, reclaiming the 50 is a strong move. And the way it was held today into the market looking like it wanted to flush, wow, like I feel like we got a level here. We should be trading Apple as a long side. I don't think we see it again today. But, you know, you never know. I mean, you got to throw a bit out there. If the market comes down, I'm going to like that Apple 145. I just don't see it getting to that price. It's been so strong.
Yeah, and that's go to Brendan.
Are we?
Let's talk Upstart, guys. Why don't we? Because it was the main decliner in the pre-market this morning, coming off of preliminary Q2 results that were not good, to say the least. Both revenue and sales are going to be much worse than prior forecasts for UPST. It's been a bit of a grind for Upstart after it did try to go higher initially.
You know what's crazy? Like I didn't touch this thing since 10 o'clock. And I'm glad that I didn't trade it after 10 o'clock because I had one simple idea with it, and that's born out of what happened with I want to say Rivian, but maybe it wasn't Rivian, but I know certainly Robinhood, right? He gapped down huge on earnings, or in this case, just a revised numbers or update, and it's just absolutely terrible. And you're down 15% or some ridiculous number into a stock that has a 34% short interest. And the simple thesis is if it doesn't break the low, there's only one place for it to go. So the pre-market low was just above 27. It broke that low, hit 27 even, and just long off of that with a 27 even stop. I've seen that squeeze, break the highs and go. It didn't happen. We essentially went $1 into 28, came back and reloaded it with a tight stop. I then tried shorting the 27 level to mild success, and then it stopped me out breaking this high. Ended up making almost the high since we had the open. Like that top wick actually has held up, right? So I guess turning it to a short off of the opening range high has been a good scalp trade all day. But you know, I had the whole idea that if we held this level, we should have squeezed. If we broke that level, we should have flushed to 25 even, and neither happened. So yeah, I'm up on the stock because we adhered to our stop levels, but I was just surprised the lack of volatility in Upstart today. And it ended up being a scalp trade when that's the last thing I expected. I was expecting fall to 25 off 27 if that failed, and I was either that or it was going to be 27 to 30. You could have made money in it, and we, you know, thankfully it was profitable or positive at least here today. But I'd say a bit of a disappointment. I was expecting absolute fireworks from Upstart, and we didn't get them.
Disappointment all around on Upstart because the initial play, remember, I took a look at the daily, and the level was 25.34, something rounded down, call it 25 even, just like Neal said. When you get below that 27, you're looking for one of two things. Get underneath and trade underneath, at which point you take a shot on the low-risk shot on the short side against that 25, or a false move through 27, snapback rally, you go for the long, use 25 as your stop and see if you can get back to 30, high 29s, 30, right? That's one of two plays, or it's either or. And this market chose, nope, it's not gonna be either or. We're gonna give you a third option, which is absolutely nothing. Which is, we're not going to give you the false move through the bottom. We're also not going to give you the actual break down below either, because it did attempt to come back above 27, failed, but then got no juice to the downside. So it's hugging that 27 area. Just keep an eye on it. And that's the thing with these names, right? You want to trade it today. It gives you nothing today, but then say on Monday you move on to something else, and this thing that's been working, because there's obviously volume flowing through here. This thing that's been working all day today may then make a move on Monday or Tuesday. So just keep it on deck and just watch it and see if you get a setup later on, because you know how this stock is going to make a move. It's down 20% on the day. It has that potential. It's just a matter of at what point does it get going.
All right, we heard about AMC to kick things off. Let's talk GME, now down 5%. which is well off its lows from early on this morning. But this happened after market yesterday when the company said their CFO had been let go and immediately replaced with another, but gave back most of this nice rally we had yesterday coming off the stock split news, guys, for GameStop today.
Yeah, I mean, I always pick one or the other. Yesterday I picked GameStop to trade, and that didn't work out for me despite the price levels being good. So I went to AMC today, and I don't regret it at all. All that being said, look, we looked at that support and where we ran away yesterday in GameStop, and that was that low to mid 120 area. And then once you got through 130, it was off to the races 135. So whether you prefer, and don't get me wrong, like 123 into 132, like the bottom to top that you ended up catching here in GameStop, that compares pretty decently to the AMC move. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that, oh yeah, well, if you longed GameStop off support, you're a sucker because AMC was better. No, they were both good. I just sort of feel like trade the one, even if they move exactly the same, just trade the one that you have the better read on, or the levels make sense, or just whatever works for you. Maybe it's because it's a cheaper stock. I don't know. Like who cares? Either way, they both work today, but I just figured after the way I traded yesterday in GameStop, I needed to be trading AMC instead. I like to short at the open off 130 in GameStop, and then somehow managed to turn that into a loss when it went all the way down to 124. And, so I decided not to trade GameStop. It makes the same move. It actually even rejected at the open that same 130. We never got to the 135 highs. I did want to fade that at 134. We just never got the opportunity. And now I think you're seeing something a little bit dissimilar here. Well, I mean, they're both holding up. Right? We talked about GameStop holding at VWAP. However, I just find where you're holding on AMC in front of that 1470 has a little more significance to it, or at least an extra reason to like it outside of where we're holding on GameStop at 126. Like, I have more faith in the 1470 area on AMC than I do at this mid-range at 126 on GameStop. I kind of feel like if that gets challenged, you should be waiting for those low to mid-20s where it makes more sense. So you're not going to see me trade this, but you will see me in AMC. As long as we're above 1470, hopefully into the close like yesterday, where we're trying to hold this as deep as we can, thinking we can get that rally. But we've reclaimed 15 even, so retaking the high is certainly a possibility here, for AMC anyways.
And I'm going to stick with GameStop. That was the only play. The way I look at AMC, I had a hard time figuring out what I can do with it. At least with GameStop, we had a game plan, right? Like Neal said. Actually, we looked at this since yesterday. It was that 122-ish area that if we maintain some buy-side support, because this all goes back to the 26th, 27th, all the way back here. So if we were able to stay above, catch a bid, there was a chance that we were going to be able to play off the support level. Well, it happened fairly quick yesterday morning, took off, came back overnight, and then this morning we come right back into that 122 area, right through the bottom there, 122 half, and instant bounce. That's the 30-minute chart. Was there an actual chance to catch a bid? Because then this has to coincide with the market turning as well. Well, we were looking at the market on the short side, so I was looking at GME on the long side because I was focusing on the shorts. So, if you're trading GME isolated, away from the market, don't care about what the rest of the market's doing, and to be fair, GME is not in these indexes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, if you're focusing on other things, you're going to prioritize, I guess, a lower priority on GME. But at the same time, if you actually look at GME on its own, if it comes back here, and this is the 5-minute chart, it comes back into that 124, breaks down into that 123, comes back into that 124, you can argue for a long in the support zone with a nice little bounce if you just look at the chart and this chart and this chart only, right? Decent bounce up to 133, but now what do you do with it? Let's just say you missed yesterday's trade, you missed today's trade, because I didn't take either one. It's right back into going sideways. It's a matter of, do I want to play north of 130? Clearly, you can't even get to 133 and continue, so no. Do I want to play south of 124? Yeah, if I can get the setup, because that's where the trade is. So the primary level I would work with is 120. If you get into that support zone, you look for a long, if you can find a bid, and then you see if you can't get it back to 130, cash out, and then come back to it again. If 120 breaks, you look for the short and use this essentially current support consolidation as the new stop level when and if you get this break through the 120s.
Somebody was saying Rogers is back. Yeah, not for me. Figure it out, Rogers. Like, wow. I don't know where that person is, but congratulations if your phone is working, because mine is not. Still, it's been all day. Big tech we were going to discuss once again because definitely leading once again this afternoon as we've seen throughout the past couple of days. It was a bit of a question mark though to kick things off, guys, with a move higher once again in rates. Treasury's coming off a little bit this afternoon though, so a bit of a bounce back here for some of these.
Yeah, to be sure. Now, we led off by showing Apple there and talking about Apple. That wasn't really the big stock to be trading. I get it. We're both kind of looking at some shorts in tech, and Meta's a different example. I was in Amazon, but basically that was off of that 115.50 level that we're looking at from yesterday's trade. There we go. So you had that, that high 115.15. It also had the breakout in the afternoon at that price. We ended up dropping at 8:30 on the number from the same area, and I just looked the gift horse straight in the mouth. And quite frankly, like I should have just covered this when it put in the same bottom as we saw yesterday off the same trade. Like that should have been enough to get me out of it. And then also thinking, don't reload the trade. Don't reload the trade. I ended up getting 115s for a scalp, and then we reload and just end up losing through 160. So that was a frustrating trade for me because I should have been covering this at that low. And sometimes you zoom out to begin the trade, and then when you're looking to take those exits, you don't always do the same thing. So that's a big mistake for me. But not nearly as bad as like Tesla today. I even said a few times, like Tesla's super strong, it's super strong, and you're trading other names and getting distracted, and I just never got myself into the long trade. And clearly, like that the 735 break initially was pretty good, but when it did this reversal, right back through that 35 and started holding 30, so I was like, don't jump in too early, allow it to try to consolidate. And I just, for some reason, I was way too tentative, and I wasn't willing to pay up 36s, 37s. Next thing I know, it's at 750, and I'm like, I'll just take a 49 half short in front of 50s, stop that out for like $1 hit, and then not have any trades in Tesla today. But this has been the strong big tech name. We can talk about Apple all we want, and yes, Apple's been impressive. No, but it's Tesla. It's Tesla that's up to 3%. It's Tesla that had the crazy buy momentum this morning, and it's Tesla which I think has a good shot to get back to those highs. Maybe 750 is turning into that support. It kind of looks like that to me this afternoon. That 45 to 50 area VWAP could turn into a bit of a launch point if we hold 39. If we hold green in the ES, it'll be because we're able to do that, and Tesla is once again leading that charge. But wow, like we know what can happen the days. You don't trade Tesla every day, but when it shows you strength like this, and sometimes it's weakness at the open, it's one of those days where Tesla's not going sideways. Tesla's going to give you that opportunity, and was really a big miss for me. I like the 35. I just never got into the trade myself.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with Apple just because I traded Apple earlier. I didn't trade on the long side though. Here's the trade from earlier on Apple. We were working short south of 145. Like, oh, you know what, short market, let's work with it. And strength. Apple was the number 2 name, or is the number 2 name in the top 10 of the tech index here, with Tesla being the top winner right now. And then Apple comes out at 0.6% right now to the upside. So we're looking for shorts. Wasn't expecting this kind of strength though, and it's looking to put in new highs fairly soon. I think the high here is from this morning. What is the high from this morning? It is about 147.50, roughly around there. And here we are, not too far away, 30 cents away from that top. It went down with the market. Obviously, when Apple moves, Tesla moves, the market goes too. Went down with the market, down to the 45 halves, and now looking to put in new highs as the futures are bouncing back towards the 15s and 20s. We're at 10, we're at 11 right now. This kind of strength in the afternoon, this is surprising. As you can see, I'm using this strength to go short, as I've been short all day pretty much. Hasn't worked out yet, but again, none of my levels have tripped. Apple got me out and AMD got me out, but I've still got 4 shorts and including the future short as well. Because remember, going back to the futures position, we are short average price 84. I don't know, why is it not here? Average price 84, and the stop was north of 25. The 20s held well, came back all the way to 84. Gave me a chance to get out, but I'm not here to get flat. I'm here to make money on the trade. I'm going to stick with my idea. We're breaking through the bottom, we're breaking through the top, like I said earlier. So here we are waiting as the market actually is now making another climb towards these 10s. This is going to be an interesting close because I was not expecting this much activity on a Friday in the summertime. So this should be pretty good there, Brendan.
Yeah, no kidding. Volatility for sure this afternoon. Not much direction overall, but here we go. Back to the upside. I was going to show you this again. Crude oil coming off a little bit here as we have about 5 or so minutes to go in the pit session before we go electronic. But Oxy was on watch this morning on this note. Yeah, Buffett back in there picking up another 12 million shares over the past couple of days, adding to his now growing collection. 18% he owns now of Occidental, which apparently he wants more. I read at lunchtime today. So who knows? Maybe in there today, but we are down a little bit for Oxy today.
Well, he's getting a good price. I wish I had just expressed the oil trade in the oil mini futures, like we said we might do. But then the Occidental news came out, and I was like, okay, well, Oxy set up. It had a 63 break in it. I thought, we can have that break. It had a channel 62 to 63, yesterday's highs that made some sense to me. So the initial break looked like everything was off to the races. It goes that first 50 pennies on the way to the previous high at 64. And I remember that well because the 62 break the previous day was really good. 62 to 64. I was thinking the same thing. 63 to 65 would happen. And we got almost a third of the way there. And then the rug pull. But the only good thing is that I adhered to the stop at 62. However, you're going to see there's a nice little purple arrow here. The only reason it's coded as a short sell is because I had to take profit out. So, meaning I had a coded sell order, and that just came off as a short sell. That was me covering my long. That turnaround point when it failed to break at 62, that was kaputs for Oxy. Didn't matter that oil came back. Completely irrelevant. Once it gave up 62, breaking yesterday's afternoon support and then continuing lower, actually not bouncing until it got close to 60 even. So, clearly that stop area at 62 was good in that's where the big pivot was, and it rejected that price and continued further to the downside. But I wasn't really at any point thinking reverse short in Oxy. So, it was one and done for me on that long trade. Unfortunately, not a good one. But the oil futures would have worked out for you. That 9 o'clock, I guess, volume spike. If you catch the breakout from that price, it's essentially been gold every single time. 4 days in a row. I don't know if we'll see this on Monday. Who knows? But for the last 4 days in a row, you've essentially had a huge spike, one direction or the other, breaking the range. And once it breaks the range, it's run further. Even if you're late to this, you've already moved about $1.50 into this rally at 9 o'clock. But it doesn't really matter. It actually still goes another buck for you there, even if you're late. But it's an oil futures trade. And I was getting into Oxy at that point, which didn't work.
Yeah, for me, crude was going to be a play at 105. And we have refused to break above it. It's just like the other move there, Upstart. It refuses to make a move past the level. It's either get above 105 so we can get a breakout trade going, or just fail enough so I can actually make a play on the short. It doesn't want to do either. So here we are kind of working 105. Crude's about to close in 2 minutes anyways. Futures going back, it seems like north of 10 and still going to the top. It's going to be a tricky situation. Crude's had quite the run in the last few days. So the fact that it's gone quiet, no point in rushing this trade or getting involved. We've played it in the closes on Tuesday and Wednesday we played the closes on crude. And then right now, I'm not even going to get involved. This is just way too messy. No point in throwing money around here on crude. So 105 is going to be the level, but 105 is also going to be the level to watch into Tuesday next week. 105, and the top end was going to be obviously 110. But definitely keep an eye on these areas because it's giving you the levels now, but not the trades. But doesn't mean you've got to forget about them. So come back to them later on and see if you can actually pick up a trade, either 101s, 105s, or even the 110s. But there's got to be something at some point next week around these levels.
All right, a few little ones to keep in mind this afternoon as well. This SRG is insane. Crazy move today for SRG, 82%. This one as well, ONVO, just popping up at day highs on a volume spike back to 350. This got going about midday, in fact, 12:30, 1 o'clock. We started ramping up to the upside on ONVO. But SRG is just unreal. 70 million shares right at day highs now, guys.
Yeah, it just keeps going higher. This thing won't stop. Shout out to the chat because I know a couple people mentioned this when it made this break. Just as I was sitting back down, we were getting into things here, coming into the afternoon. It makes that break at the high of the day. I sort of said, hey, I'll sit back and look to see if it dips. I'll probably cancel this order now. Dips back to the previous high. That was about 1080. Forget about that. I don't think that's not going to be all that valid. Anything you want a consolidation looks like 1085, 1090, maybe even 11 right here might make some sense. I mean, they're looking to sell the company off, but realistically, it's got room before you see anything significant technically, whether it's the 200 period or maybe a previous consolidation up around $11.50, $12. So, I mean, I could certainly see this one go as a low floater with a catalyst behind it. The volume has just been absolutely impressive. What I like to see, I got to do this for you guys. What I like to see here as you're breaking the highs is maybe you don't get the volume you had at the open, but I mean, just a huge spike in the afternoon to take out those tops and then maintain that volume through the highs in the summer on a Friday. That's a pretty good sign for this stock. So, I mean, I'd love, I'm in AMC. I kind of wish AMC was doing this move right now. But SRG, I think you got to only play it with relatively tight stops off the highs, because a chance to get in good off $10, I mean, like this is one where you look back in hindsight. I wasn't monitoring the stock over lunch. That's on myself. But $10 even. Like, you look at the break at 11 o'clock, hold support at 10. Get up, fail at 11, hold support at 10, then you get to 11. I mean, come on. Sometimes it's not overly complicated. Yeah, you have to hold it 10, 15 cents against you, but quite frankly, if you're not willing to do that, you're not taking $1 on the stock anyway. So that's one that was there for you. I wish I had seen it. I didn't. I was trading AMC during that time and looking for reloads there. And as I say that, it's not that AMC is bad. AMC doesn't have a dissimilar look, but you can tell the difference. Like, that is screaming away from support and giving you 10% moves. AMC is giving you 30, 40 cents off that 1470 area and kind of struggling to get back toward the highs. It's working, don't get me wrong, but SRG's got some serious juice to it, so I want to see if I can't trade that one. It just has to be tighter stops off these highs. Like, I'm not holding an 11 long if I can get it, or maybe even a 1090. I'm not holding that to $10. Not with 90 minutes left in the session. Like, that's a little bit reckless. And we're not swing trading here. We're just buying and selling by the end of the day. So I'd have to put a stop underneath that 1070 on any long I took up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I'm in shorts. I've been working shorts all day. But I see the chat. I see you guys going back and forth about my trading style. There's no reason why I'm not on the show. It's because my trading style is not for everybody. It's a very... I guess I use very wide stops. Also, it's not for everybody. If you're newer, you probably the account size is probably not large enough. So just understand that I've got a handle on what I'm doing. So if I'm gonna take a move, in my case, if I'm taking a shot at the short, there's a reason for that. I also have exit points. So the way I strategize, and I'm just going to talk about my approach here. So if that makes any sense to you guys, take it. If not, let me just do my thing. The way I go about it is I identify levels that I want to work with. Then I try to get confirmation of those levels. Once I get the confirmation, I stick to the read, and I don't really give up on the read unless I'm forced out of the trade. There's no middling in the, what is it called? Diddling in the middle or whatever that Prad likes to say. I try to make it as binary as possible. So if you've got better approaches, man, you do you. But this has worked out for me, and I'm just gonna stick with what I'm doing because it's turned out that, hey, it makes a decent amount of money. So for me right now, although the market's coming up strong, the read was initially the read was, hey, jobs report, great drop. Initially looked for the long, didn't work out, popped up, okay. Secondary push down, okay. Now I can work the short into 85s. Now we got that rally coming up all the way because the 25 level is the level that I wanted to work with on the ES pretty much all day. I have a certain risk parameter too. So the fact that we never got to 25, we got close to 25. So I was pretty close to getting out, came all the way back down to 85, gives me the kind of partial exit if I want it. But again, if I'm playing the short off the top end, I'm not too worried about getting out partial because I want to see what's below 80 into the 70s, right? So we never got there, instant bounce. Now the market looks like it wants to trace higher. So it could end up being a losing day, but that's part of the game, right? Are you ever going to win 100% of the time? No. As long as you make money at the end of it, it should be fine. So the fact that the market's going up, it's going to be costly, of course, but at the same time, it comes with the territory. If you're not prepared to play in the territory where you're losing, and at times it could be bad, then you probably shouldn't be playing the game at all.
That's an important thing to say. Like, every style of trading is going to be different. Futures trading, Here's the thing. I said this in the morning show too. Like in the years I've been doing this on the trading floor, risk managing and trading myself, the few futures traders that are out there that try to trade like equities, where you're doing a lot of scalping and holding positions for relatively tight stops, I don't know anybody that's actually been successful doing that on the futures. I'm not saying that you can't be, but those that have been profitable over the long run are holding for big moves and giving it a wider stop. And I get it. On a prop floor, certainly you have a different account. It's not like trading. You're not trading directly your own money. It's your account, but you do have wider risk. And for futures trading, it's just a different beast, man. So we got to talk about that and understand that it's not for everybody. I'll tell you right now, I barely trade the futures at all over the years. And I think probably that's a good thing, because it doesn't really fit my style of trade in particular. I did get into this SRG. I chased it a little bit, not much. I got 11, 12. Yeah, just above 11 even, as I was trying to take out that high. I figured I'd get in half here and then try and get more shares tighter to that 1080 or 1090 area in case we hold this consolidation. But as I said, relatively tight stop. If we get below that 80 toward that 70 area, that's where we're going to be stopping out. Not all the way back at 10 even. I just can't. I can't rationalize that working with the stock up 81%. And realistically, what am I thinking? $10, $50, $11.50, $12 to the upside here. So risk to reward, I have to make it make some kind of sense. We still are working with AMC here. I saw someone in the chat. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for the super chat there. You know, look, essentially all we are is a bunch of traders who are telling you what we see in the market, and Brendan giving you live news, and we do it for free. And the only thing we ask for, by the way, is that you hit that like button. And there's a special treat today, because I did say, and thank you guys for getting us there, that if you got to 1,000 likes in yesterday and today for the afternoon show, targets were hit in the morning show, that I dropped some bars for you. So I have something for you with the close. I think we can get to 1,000 likes. There shouldn't be any trouble. I should have said 2,000, but thank you guys for the super chat. I did want to come back over to Amazon very quickly, because I swear I saw someone in the chat mentioning this. Amazon had this, so I was shorting this off this 1550 level. It looks like it's kind of breaking out from that price. But if you look at the high, and I know this isn't split adjusted, if you look at yesterday's high, like you're into air at 117 off yesterday's top. So there is another, like there's a few names out there which still have overhead resistance as the market gets to that, or is attempting to get to that high. The NASDAQ about 20 to 30 points away, the ES about 5 or 6 points. I don't have any shorts left. Like my meta reload got stopped out there because I had tight stops on the meta reload. There's only one area that I should be shorting meta, and it's pretty obvious when you look at that chart. I was just all over it in front of 72s, and then just the second I step in front of this thing lower, it's like, okay, there you go, you get run over. So I'm just sitting around patiently waiting for the top on meta. If I get 172 to 172 half, that's where we're going to go into the short trade on meta. Otherwise, let's forget about it. I still have Clovis, by the way. So I wanted to come over to that trade, because I know in the morning show, I took the Clovis trade off that 315 to 330 on the daily and got stopped out. It then retraced right back to that same high and rejected the high. And this is the thing, like I'll always have a stop and be willing to make the top wick, but if this trade sets up again, okay, fine, then I'm going to put the trade on again. And then it does retrace into VWAP. And we actually broke VWAP, and I held on to it. And at this point, I was thinking we're capitulating to 250. I was pretty convinced I was going to get that last 10% out, and we're going to hold for 250. Instead, it's kind of turned into this almost 10% scalp trade between VWAP and $3 down to that 270. So I kind of have to think about reloading in the afternoon in the 90s to 95s in front of 3, and then play it to 270, maybe holding on to a portion of that position in case we fall further. So this small cap has been giving it up. But it just goes to show, like if I've gotten away from stocks like this before. You make a stop out, you stop looking at it. In this particular case, it was no, go back to the well. It's a valid level on the daily chart. We knew there was overhead resistance to the 3 break. When you came back and looked at this on the daily, 320 stood out, and you go back a little further, you see that 330 area. So there's a lot of people that would be looking to sell up in that price range, whether it was short sellers or bag holders, and that's why you do get that rejection at that price. It just took 2 swings. And you can sit there holding on to the first one, let it go a little bit against you. I never like that. I usually like to take my pain and then try to get back into the trade, but whatever works for you, you got to be able to do. And as I say that, SRG might not work for me. We got into that one. chased it a little bit, like I said, above 11. Now I've got those 80s in there, so average price basically 11 flat now. If it breaks 75, I guess I'll just get out of this one. The real trade was off $10, right? I'm not going to sit here and be too stubborn about it because I happen to miss out on that trade. Maybe we see 10 again. I highly doubt that, but you never really know. If we get stopped out on this, we'll take the L. But that was a great opportunity for anyone that caught that off 10 even. Sometimes you just have to monitor the stock during lunch and don't get so caught up with only one thing like I was with AMC.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of not explain. So as you guys can see on the screen there, I've got 4 shorts. Let's talk about the equity side of things. The BA short is from this morning. I still have worked. I guess I haven't worked out of it. Well, there had no reason to, right? It popped, yeah, but then it did nothing special that made me say, you know what, this read is gone. So for me, that short at 139, the fact that we bounced right off the 140 half, nothing changed at this point. And the fact that we came back down, nothing changed when we came back down to 138 half. If we had broken through the lows, then that allows me to kind of bring in a new stop because I know that if we end up taking the lows, we can probably double bottom if we kind of break through, snap back, come back into the 139. So until that happens, I leave the stop as is. So BAs from this morning, I picked up some midday shorts on NVIDIA as well. Just like the futures chart, this pretty much is almost the same as the futures chart. New highs, comes back, breaks through. For me, it was that 156 half that opened up the short the second time around. So coming back up, I'm like, you know what? We can work with this area here. Pretty much 157 going all the way up. We can and put the new highs as a stop, but we can work the middle here. As the futures were coming into a good chunk of volume, I wanted to work some shorts on NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA up 0.21 on the day and still running strong, but a lot of the names are, right? So we're working NVIDIA on the short side based on that read. And then also Meta is the other player. I can't, for some reason, I can't see the entry here, but the Meta short is 170.49, which puts me right about here. Exact same read as the other 2 names, right? I got the futures on the same, futures from this morning. I've got NVIDIA on the same read. The fact that we failed near the high, came back in this case, 170 half, came back in, bounced back into that 170 half. That's where I'm playing on the short side, top end of the range. So if we keep the strength and we actually break through the top, then obviously I'm gonna have to take a hit on all of these names, really. That's kind of the play here on Meta, NVIDIA, Boeing from this morning, and then Amazon, pretty much the third name doing the exact same thing, which is fail break near the high, bounce down, bounce back up into resistance areas where there's going to be volume, was established this morning and late session yesterday, fade right into that. And if it's got the strength to keep going, then clearly that's not going to work out. We'll dump it. So 4 shorts, all 4 shorts, pretty much following the same type of scenario here, which is a bounce back into a good chunk of volume and see if this market actually fades out. And then obviously the future short from this morning.
Look, I know we have Frank coming on very quickly. Before we get to that, I just wanted to point out, Brennan put this in the chat. Everyone said Rivian had a volume spike. It looks like Apple's Tim Cook takes a ride in Rivian electric pickup at Sun Valley. So he took a ride in a Rivian, and you had this massive volume spike here in Rivian, which immediately got retraced. So, I mean, it was the biggest volume spike of the day. I can show you like this. Huge volume spike. It broke out, got up about 30 or 40 cents, and then came right back down. And I suppose you could just say, okay, well, it can't be all that bad, so just kind of go long from this consolidation because the market's strong. I don't know about that. This is not Qualcomm, and I was about to go to Qualcomm anyways. It might not be the worst idea in the world, but Qualcomm, of course, had the Samsung news earlier where it spiked up, and it's like, just go long in front of where the stock was before the news came out. Now, I got out too early. I know Tyrone, yeah, you and I both, man. Definitely got trailed out of this one too early. It's back at the high of the day. I'm not saying Rivian can't do that. Qualcomm being sole supplier and meeting up with Samsung, that's stronger news than Tim Cook takes a ride in a Rivian, as far as I'm concerned. Although it's not the most ridiculous idea to consider, well, before and without that catalyst, you were holding here at 32.30 in front of VWAP, in front of 32 even. So fine, you put like a 30-cent stop on and maybe it just rallies with the rest of the market. Maybe Tesla drags it to the upside. I get that, and that's not a horrible idea altogether. To me, it's different from Qualcomm. I'm almost talking myself into taking that shot, but want to make sure everyone knew that the news wasn't exactly groundbreaking on Rivian there, even if it does go up from here. Brendan, now we are ready, I think, with Frank, one of our favorite guests. Let's go to Brendan at the desk.
Maybe he just wants an electric truck, you know, like it doesn't have to mean they're buying Rivian. Anyways, as promised, Frank Caberna, Director of Product Content and Creative from the Small Exchange over in Chicago. An exciting, well, not really, Friday, Frank, but good to have you as always. We get the jobs number, obviously, this morning. That was the big story, the big headline of the day. A huge beat, it is worth saying, you know, a huge beat, but we were having this conversation throughout the day in that, is good news still good news, or is good news now bad news and vice versa? What are your thoughts throughout the day? In that, is
a really interesting number here. I don't know about you, but it was a very exciting trade. No, it actually wasn't that interesting of a number that we saw this morning. And everything for the most part, Brendan, whipsawed, except for interest rates, which moved higher and then stayed higher. It looks like they're going to close all the way across the curve above 3%. We'll get into the inversion here in a second. But I do want to highlight a great point that you make there, which is this is a nuanced market that we're dealing with here, and it's not a classic market whereby a good number is good for stocks, and that's the end of it, and that's all there is to say. This is a market where context is required, and the stock market is moving largely because of what's going on in interest rates, and so a beat might mean higher rates, which means lower stocks. And we saw that initial move in the stock market, but quickly reversed within the hour of the initial move off of non-farm. That's why I don't like to try to interpret what's going on with that data release and then go make a trade. I'd much rather let the algos and everything else move the market around and then trade the aftermath, which was pretty successful if you bought that dip in the stock market there, but not very successful if you sold the run up in interest rates, as those have just, I mean, it looks like we're going to close out the week on those highs there. We can get to the inversion in a second, but I mean, are you a buyer or seller of 3%? You can get 3% 2 years, 10 years, or 30 years, very flat curve. But do you think this is this the start of another leg higher in rates, or do you think that this is a last gasp and we move back closer to 2.5% or 2% where we started the week, honestly?
Obviously, time will tell. I love the idea of, you know, how these two markets are correlated with, you know, interest rates affecting stocks and vice versa. I was saying to kick things off when we came on at 2 o'clock, Frank, that, you know, this rally that stocks have had throughout the week has largely been led by tech and by, you know, specifically some of these growth stocks that are down 70, 80, 90% on the year. You know, higher rates, you think, okay, that's bad for these stocks once again. But here we are, you know, with about an hour to go in the remainder of the week, and we're basically flat on the week. But yeah, I want to touch on this inversion once again, because I mean, talk a little bit maybe about the rarity of what we're seeing again, and then obviously there's a trade setup here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, sorry to give the false start there on your production team. We can jump into that inverted yield curve now, just to show you what we're looking at. A couple different ways to look at what an inverted yield curve technically is. Technically, it just means that shorter dated debt is being serviced at a higher interest rate than longer dated debt. And so that can occur between, you know, 6-month debt and 1-year debt or what have you. Right now, we're seeing it between the two biggest pieces of the U.S. yield curve, and usually the biggest benchmarks of any economy's yield curve, which is the 2-year and the 10-year. You're seeing 2-year yields as we speak trading higher than 10-year yields. This is something that happened for all of 2 trading days, Brendan, earlier this year, and you and I were talking about it before it happened and then talking about it during and after. I feel like we actually had a real good beat on that story there, and we're back, and we've only been there for about 24, 48 hours of trading. And this is one of those things that I love to highlight, because you're right, Brendan, it's very, very rare. This happens maybe once or twice a decade that we see an inverted curve. And as long as the U.S. has had its Treasury Department and has been, you know, giving out or putting up for sale risk-free debt and everything else, and you've been looking at this yield curve, decades and decades of data, we've always reverted back to normal. And if we go to the price chart, you can see what that looks like historically, and what we saw in that spring inversion. Like I say, only 2 trading days that we were down there. It's a rare event. It's a high probability shot. It's one that whenever we get down here, I'm definitely trading on the other side of it, but it has some risk to it. This curve can go more inverted. All the data that I have, which goes back to, I believe, the 80s, the furthest that we've gone inverted is about 60 to 70 basis points. Right now, we're only inverted by 2 or 3 basis points. So, in the grand scheme of things, it can get worse here, Brendan. But like I say, we always come back to normal. The curve always evens out, or has historically. And I'm, of course, going to be on that side of the trade here. Now, this has to be a patience trade. We did see this revert back to normal in 48 hours of trading in the spring, but we have seen periods historically where the curve has been inverted for months, even potentially a year. This isn't one of those where I can put on the anti-inversion trade here, Brendan, at 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon and get it back for profits in the next 20, 30 minutes. This is more of a patience trade, but one that when I see it, I'm definitely putting in my portfolio, just given the edge. I mean, it's rare that you have a 50-50 marketplace like futures, and here looking at futures spreads, and you have a historical edge in your favor that's more, akin to 80-20 or 90-10, given that we spend more than 90% of the time not inverted in this yield curve.
And amazing to see, multiple times in the matter of, 2.5 months here in the same year is pretty impressive. So what does this mean, I guess, for the overall market in general? When you talk about, 3 to 3.5% as a projection here, I mean, I'll let you kind of go into the 2-year here, but how high can we go as far as the 2-year is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, this is the classic disclaimer that everybody on any financial network has. It can go as high as it wants. It can go on into infinity, and that's what whenever you sell a market and that little infinity symbol pops up, it is a little bit scary. But I can give you historical data that gives you probably a better estimation. And yeah, looking at the 2-year, something that we've been highlighting a lot when I jump on, because the inversion is mostly on the back of the 2-year rising. 10-year rates and 30-year rates are both up, but we've got an inverted yield curve because the 2-year is just traveling a lot faster north than the 10-year and 30-year duration. And this 2-year can go, of course, to if you've been trading as long as back into the 80s and the 90s, you've seen 2-year interest rate prints in the 6 handle, in the 7 handle. That being said, we have been trading in a market the last decade plus, Brendan, that's been 3%, 3.5%. That's the high. Going back to, I believe, prior to the 08 crash, we are at historical highs here in the 2-year. What's interesting to me is we're kind of topping out, and you're seeing a little bit of this market losing a little bit of steam here in 2 years, whereby we got up to 3%. They reached 3.5% for one trading day, and now have backed off. And maybe we trade around. Maybe this is the new range, 2.5 to 3.5%. I wouldn't be surprised if we stick to that for the coming months and year. And yeah, the game begins. Does the Fed hike up to 3.5%, or do they only get as high as 2.5%? And you'll see this market move along in tandem with that story and those projections. But what's really interesting to me, Brendan, is the market's losing steam. Yes, rates bounced back this week, but we saw the stock market actually not take that as negative news. The stock market closing a little bit higher as we speak, even with rates higher. But that inverted yield curve, that hasn't come off. To me, that's kind of the last little remnant of the weird environment that we traded in for the first half of this year. And if stocks continue to bounce back for the second half of this year, interest rates trade around this range, I think that's going to be a huge trade. I think that inverted yield curve is not only going to come out of inversion, but I think we'll, at the end of the year, if, like I say, stock market stays comfortable, doesn't sell off, another 10% or so, that 2-year, 10-year spread should be out to 50 basis points, maybe even a full percentage point. And that's why I definitely like to keep it on everyone's radar. But like I say, not something that's going to revert in the next couple of hours, could take weeks or even months, depending on what you're projecting to try to make off a trade like that.
It's, as traders, we always like to avoid it. It's almost painful to say, a trade always works out in one direction, but this is one of those rare cases where you can actually get away with speaking in those terms. So yeah, pretty amazing times in the Treasury markets. Wanted to talk about the US dollar here as well, because this unbelievable March higher continues for the USD. We got the ISM numbers earlier in the week. We got the Fed minutes earlier in the week. Both kind of a non-event, really. But I mean, give me your thoughts here. What's the reasoning that we're back to the highs here for the USD?
Yeah, this is similar to that inversion in that it's like it's the last kind of weird thing that's on my board. Everything kind of shaken out to be pretty healthy back and forth. You even look at crude oil, some agriculture markets, both seeing two sides of the market. Forex, the only asset class that we're not seeing two sides of the market, it's one way, and it's higher in US dollar and it's lower in almost everything else. Today, a pretty healthy move in that during the European session, you saw euros actually extend to new lows as the dollar moved to new highs, and actually going to close the week here a little bit of a bounce back. I mean, it's all of 20 points of a bounce back in euro futures, so not much, but at least something here. And yeah, I'm really wondering where this is going to stop. To your point, Brendan, we've always come back from an inverted yield curve. This euro market has traded under parity, and has traded under parity for years and years and years. If you go back prior to 2002, that being said, we're at extremes. This week, it's no longer, Brendan, trading around extremes in the euro. This is the low in the euro for the last 2 decades, and the odds that we put out to everybody out there from the euro options market has climbed from 20% to 33% chance. The market is seeing that euro hits parity with the US dollar by the end of 2023, 33% chance that your next vacation to Europe is going to be a lot easier on your wallet, especially if you're coming from the US. I'd probably be sellers of those odds, sellers of that, parity put, that $1 strike put in there. But I mean, this is as close as we've gotten in my trading career. I was joking around with some guys here. It feels like you've heard about dinosaurs all your life, and now there are dinosaurs literally walking around, which is this euro market trading under $1. I feel like it's like, oh yeah, it's something that existed, but I've never seen it, and we're pretty darn close there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I was just trying to think of, I do remember when that happened, but it's been a long time since we've, as you said, had that market in line with the other. The yen, we'll wrap things up here with the yen. It's been obviously just unbelievable news out of Japan this morning with the former prime minister. Crazy headline, but give us your take here on what's happening with the yen, because another one that's, at historic levels here.
Yeah, absolutely crazy headline and awful story there in Japan. Really sorry to see that. Absolute craziness. What is going on with people? But this yen has been really beat up. If you're looking for the greatest value of any currency cross, a major currency cross, that is, there's always going to be some one-offs that are going nuts all over the place. But the yen is the greatest value in here, because if you liked the extreme in the euro, lowest prices that we've seen euro USD since '02, this yen will raise you one and take you to the 90s. The last time we saw lows like this in yen to US dollar, lowest prices of this millennium. This is a market that, yeah, it's similar to the stock market, Brendan, where if you want the extreme, then you just trade that US dollar basket, which has euro, yen, British pound, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, and everything else. But if you want the specific risk, if you want the greatest outlier, the big single stock mover, then you can go to this yen piece and go get that specific pair in there, because it's definitely the most beat up. And I'm definitely asking myself, as someone who's sold puts in the yen already, and they're going against me pretty good, where does this end? We're in uncharted territory in almost every currency cross against US dollar.
On that euro move as well, I mean, 2023 even seems like a bit of a soft target on that. It could be, it seems like anyways, it could be even like next week we could see it touch parity, which is crazy to think. Anyways, great stuff, great info, great insight. As always, Frank Caberna, Director of Content, Product, and Creative over at the Small Exchange in Chicago. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Brendan.
Frank, and some talk in the chat there. We love the different perspectives. Frank giving that higher level. That's what it's all about here, man. Arun trading the futures. Frank keeping us grounded, looking at the bigger picture. I mean, we were just sort of talking amongst ourselves too about the U.S. dollar strength. Let's not forget, Microsoft relatively weak a little bit today, and we were talking a little bit about CRM this morning as well, Salesforce. Both those two companies cited U.S. dollar strength as being a bit of a drain on their forward guidance there. So I'm going to get to trading in just a second there, but I saw someone put in Miller time in the chat because it's Friday. My man Sean here, if you can we come to my screen for a second, guys? I just put it up. So Sean just put this one out here. And look at the beach he's on. There are nice beaches in Canada, believe it or not. It's actually true. So I haven't been able to hear the message because I was listening to Frank, but he's wishing everybody the best, obviously. But he's up north at the beach, chilling, getting that time off. He's back next week. Arun is filling in. I mean, look, my family's West Indian, so I got that blood in me. And my pops always tells me there's no real beaches in Canada, but that looks pretty darn sweet, man. So enjoy the time off. We got the markets here for you. I know I'm pretty sure he'd like the reloads on Meta and the way that we're sort of attacking the relative strength and weakness in this inside market, because Meta came right back up. We started shorts in the morning. When it got to 171.5, we loaded them up in front of 172. The only losses were when it temporarily took out the top, I stopped some out. And then when I tried shorting VWAP, went right back to the well of waiting for that 71.5 to get in, was able to get a 50-cent scalp. Now we're just going to try and rinse and repeat and do the same thing over and over again. So it's about finding some relatively weak stocks. Meta's still down on the day, 0.5% even with the NASDAQ up. So we'll try to take advantage of that. And by the way, two things. CLVS has just, whoops, it's still a NASDAQ stock, Neal. CLVS, as I said, has now come back into VWAP. I did the reload, it rejected that 3 even, so I do have my stop in. I said I would change it from the let's just hold it to 250, instead saying, well, if it wants to trade rejecting 3 even, I'll try reloading in front of 3, scalping it down to those 275, 280 range, and then working that. If it breaks the top, then guess what? It could actually still challenge that high of the day. Unfortunately, that SRG did not do so, but this is why I did believe you wanted to have a relatively tight stop there. I tried to play the breakout. We gave it to that 1075. I'm not going to hold it all the way back into VWAP. Maybe it can go down there and give us another re-entry point, but I'd rather not get overly aggressive and start holding that one against me like 5% or something ridiculous like that. Want to go back to AMC because that's starting to come down a little bit. Just bounced off VWAP. Where am I on the bid? 77? That's maybe not aggressive enough. Sitting at 77 on the bid here, only to see it bounce off like 80 almost exactly. So if we're going to rinse and repeat on AMC, then I got to be on this bid in front of VWAP. It hasn't really given you much more than the 15.10, but you know what? Until we get below 70s, we said we'd be back to this long, and I'm just going to stick to that. I'm willing to have that last trade on AMC be a loser. If you're going to play off a key level, well, I'm going to play it till it breaks. And if it breaks, I lose. But it's been a good payout so far today on the stock. You really haven't had too much trouble if you've been going long, either at the open at 14 or just sort of waiting around for it to break out from 1470, big levels from yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just going through the list. This market is looking like it wants to put a new high. The high of the futures is 39.22. We're sitting at 18.5, picking up some steam to the upside as we hit the final just underneath an hour here, just after 3 o'clock. Looks like we're going to do some buy-side activity here. Good strength. The turnaround of this move, this downward move, was right here. It was just after noon where we snapped through 85 and then instantly snapped right back up. And then since then, as you can see on the 5-minute chart, we've only caught this entire move. We've got 4 red bars. So we've spent most of the latter half of the afternoon just going straight up. And here we are sitting not too far away from highs. So odds are probably putting in new highs, probably going to get stopped out of all these shorts here. So it's going to be a rough close for me. But at the same time, there's some time left. You never know, because keep in mind, Imbalances at 350. We've got some program activity coming on at 330. So there could be a decent amount of activity that gives you something, whatever direction that's going to be. It's going to be fairly quick. This is surprising to me that we're getting this much activity on a Friday in the summertime. So I guess we're not done just yet. So buckle up for next week, because next week we've got what's it called? Some inflation data. So that should bring some volatility. And then I believe Fed is also in the next couple of weeks, late July. And then we've got tech earnings. So there's a lot on deck for July, surprisingly. And this market's still got the juice. So I guess we're not at summertime yet. Maybe August is when it goes into summertime volume. But for now, there's definitely some interest here in this market as it's still climbing. All these stocks still climbing to the upside. So I'm setting up trades for tomorrow, or not for tomorrow, for Monday. And I was talking to Neal about CRM. He brought CRM, and because Frank was talking about the US dollar. And I looked at 177. I'm like, oh, 177 would be a great break to the upside, because we're spending essentially today doing nothing. Relative weakness, sure, but at the same time, we're spending today doing nothing around these 177s. We don't want to break through 175 or 174, but then if we get above 177 and this market is doing well, then there's a chance that this thing goes right up into 181, 182. So that's a definite trade to keep on deck. Set the alerts off. See if you can come back to it on another day when it actually gets the break going. But for the time being, I'm just trying to figure out what can I do. These trades, they're pretty set. The odds are they're going to lose. So there's nothing else to do with them. I can't do anything about what's happening on these trades. But I can set up the next set of trades and what I want to do afterwards. So CRM, definitely looking at the potential for a nice little breakout long on CRM. Another name that I wanted to keep an eye on, Nike, also taking a look here north of that 108.5 level. But I would keep a very close eye, not necessarily on 108.5, but on the 108 on the pullback, if it can pull back here. It's sitting above. Nice little attempt to take out the high. Late session break. Let's see what it's got on the way down, because if it can catch some bids here around that 108 even, then there's a chance that we take a look, bounce off that 108, take a look at that 110. So that's going to be my kind of next 2 setups that I want to maybe line up for another day. It's going to be Nike, CRM, and that's all I'm doing at this point. It's too late for a lot of these trades. I'm not going to enter new ones. We're just going to figure out and set up the next set of trades that I'm going to take in the event that they set up.
I love when you said the market's got juice. The market's got juice, it's got enough to go around, and that thought takes place uptown. And if you have any idea what that lyric is, it's a little bit of a spin from my main man, Rakim, the greatest rapper of all time. Upstart here, trying to get going, and I said how this is not broken the opening range at any point today, outside of stopping me out here on that last short I had at 27.30, it looks like. So 27.40, still grinding higher. Like, look at this thing try and go. And I've been sitting here asking myself, like, at a 34% short interest, down 19%, and essentially this top wick is 27.40. I actually had to stop when it got here to take the 27.40 break. Right when we left the show, I was like, yeah, I'm taking that break if it happens. We flushed to the bottom and I canceled the order. I don't see how I don't take that trade at this point. I mean, come on. We had a wipe out bottom and then have held support off of that low the entire time. You're down 19%. I mean, a 27.40 break to the pre-market highs is $1. Like, on a 34% short interest or 32 or whatever it is, yeah, sign me up. I'm going to take that break if we get it. I understand it has not broken this range all day long, but I'll take a shot off it. I think risk to reward, it's very likely to be worth it. And I think at this point, there's two ways you can look at the risk. I understand the obvious thing would be to give it to like 70 cents here, but you can also risk it down to about like 26.90 and risk 50 cents on the trade, which can be reasonable as well, or just do both. Take half out for the first stop, half out for the second stop. I like the tight stop going into this, just figuring if it's a squeeze play, it should work right away, and then you're trading the first out to 28, and then hopefully you can get to that high. But Upstart trying to get going here. As far as the shorts go, it's still meta, baby. Got the reload. 171.50 here. Okay, 49s. It's the same thing as 50. I'm on the bid to try and cover some again right around that 171 even. Play it down into VWAP, see if we can't hold for a little bit longer. AMC, I mentioned to you that I missed that reload, but it's still consolidating here. It might be, look, it might be done. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's got to go up from here, but I'm going to be on that bid as long as we can find some support there on AMC. That one's been good. Clovis, we took the reload on that. It's still a NASDAQ stock, Neal. Took the reload. It got down to 290. I was kind of looking for 285 there. I've canceled my bid. Might have to step it up a little bit. But if we break 3, get above like 1s and 2s, I'm just getting out of Dodge on this and waiting around to see if we can't retest some of those highs on CLVS.
Yeah, this market. Oh, we're getting closer and closer to the end of the day, and this is getting even whippier than it was all day. At least before, we were whipping around in 20, 30-point ranges. Now we're whipping around in 5s to much smaller ranges, and we're just all over the place here. This is the 5-minute. Oh, you want 18s? No. You want 10s? No. You want back to 18 and 20? No. You want back to 10? No. So we're just whipping around here at the top end of the range, and there's a lot of volume, and this is going to be one thing you got to take in. Obviously, the days that you lose, you got to take in something. There's always a trade-off, right? Obviously, when you win, it's money. You win. But the trade-off when you lose is what you've learned the market does not want to do, or it's giving you something. It's giving you information, and you try to use that information for the next set of trades. So in the event, let's just say we were thinking short, and this market's catching a bid, and we're looking at 25 as your original stop point, and this market's spending a lot of volume going back and forth in these price points, right? So we can use this now for the next set of trades. So when you do lose, and you will lose, when you do lose, move on to the next trade. And what's the next trade? Potential breakout long. Stops are going to go here because you're getting that information right here with the market going back and forth like this. All this up and down by 10 points, 20 points. All of this is information to be used for another trade at a later point. Obviously, if you caught it right, if you got the right read on it, you're going to make money. That's your trade-off. That's your reward for getting it right. Your reward for getting it wrong is going to be information. There's always something on the other side of that, so don't forget that. It's not about I made money, I lost money. It's I made money, I gained information. Of course, your bank account takes a small hit or your account takes a hit, but that's part of the game, right? And that's all it is, taking that information, rolling it to a new trade, and see if you can get it right the next time around. And right now, we've got about trades. We've talked about levels, and we're talking about psychology somewhat all over the place, but Brendan's got a guest for us, and I'm curious what he's got to say.
He ran me down in the halls today and said, I have to come on the show. No, I'm kidding. Justin Kozuch back with us, Day Trade the World marketing guy, on a Friday afternoon to discuss the Day Trade the World newsletter, which is exploding in popularity. We're going to show you the link. We're going to show you how to grab it. Right now, Justin Kozuch, it's a bi-weekly newsletter, but you have a inkling to possibly make that bigger, better, improved.
Right. So, we were talking a little bit about Rogers. The Rogers network might be down today, but the Opening Bell newsletter is still up. Not hosted by Rogers, thankfully. To your point about the schedule, we got some feedback. First of all, let me say thank you to everybody who signed up. All 865 million of you, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the support.
That's a lot.
Got some, it is a lot. Quite impressed by that. We got some feedback from a number of readers who have said they'd be very interested in seeing if the newsletter could come out weekly on a Monday. And I thought, well, that's a smart idea. So we want to put it out to you. We'd love to hear from you. Throw something in chat or send an email to, Justin at daytradetheworld.com. Let me know what you think, or you can or you can answer the poll thing on the screen over here and let us know what you think. Yeah, that's that one. Click on every Monday morning if you want it every Monday morning, or every other Tuesday as we currently do.
Look at that, 100%.
There you go, 104 votes.
I think you're
100%.
doing another one.
I think we might be doing this Monday morning. The people have spoken. So let me know what you think, and we'll look at that. And I think we could do every Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. No change in the time, same bat channel, but more great Day Trade the World and Trader TV content coming directly to you at daytradetheworld.com/opening to sign up and get your, what we hope will be a weekly newsletter.
There you go.
Coming up this week, we have lots of great content being planned from the Day Trade the World blog, as well as the Trader TV YouTube channel. So more to come right now. Tuesday at 8:30. Next week is the next edition, so make sure to sign up daytradetheworld.com/opening, and we'll send you, I don't know, we'll send you something. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, go to the first go to the Twitter, which is at DTTW_daytrade. Hit every Monday morning, so Justin has more work to do. And then go to daytradetheworld.com and sign up right here, the opening bell. All you need is your first name and an email address. And that is yours. Great information. Right now, bi-weekly, but starting very soon, probably next week. It'll be every Monday morning. Justin Kozach, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I just voted for that every Monday. Come on, are you kidding me? You better believe I put the vote in for that. And yeah, get that feedback in there. Flood his inbox. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Justin, for coming on there. giving out the email address. It's all good, man. And also a big hockey fan as well. As we were sort of like talking about other topics there, I looked over at Meta and I was saying to myself, like, what the actual heck? Sometimes this really does happen to you. So Meta, I was just telling you about how I was going to get out on the bid. I was bidding 171.13. Is it 13? No, sorry, check that. 14. And it bounced at 15 and then right back toward the high. So I missed the chance to do that little scalp trade and then maybe get back in off that 170, toward those highs. So that's a bit of a mistake on my part. At this point, I have to note the fact that it's trending up. As much as I like working this short, as long as the market isn't breaking the highs, which it's not. But I still need to be respecting the fact that it's been a good scalp trade and then taken a while to follow through. That was the same in the morning into lunchtime. I think the same thing is true here. So I want to make sure I'm actually getting these fills down on the bid here in Meta. It has been a good trade, but we don't want to turn what was a good idea or what has been a good idea into a fail. So I don't want to be doing that. CLVS. As I mentioned here, we get back through 3. I'm just going to stop it out. So I did take one reload on this stock at 95. Otherwise, we've only been shorting the top here up at 320. That's what I'd be waiting for. If this is a top wick and we fail from here, fair enough. But this is showing enough signs that it didn't drop to 250 like I thought it might do. It held that higher low and looks like it wants to try to break back out. I don't love the longs. I guess it's not that dissimilar from AMC, but I don't love the long in CLVS here. It's a little bit extended as far as I'm concerned. And the way I look at it, it's like you're so close to these highs on the daily chart that unless you're breaking out from here, like you're taking 340s, I just don't know where I see that upside. So you're just going to see me stay away from this one unless we're shorting those tops. I just can't really bring myself to be in that long. It just doesn't really make a ton of sense for me. So I understand it's a bullish stock here. I'm getting out. There's actually 100,000 shares on the bid right now at $3 even. So as I say that, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. I don't like the long. You can't see it now. I just saw them there on the book. I guess it must have been like EdgeX or something that's not showing up deep in the book. It couldn't be NASDAQ or ARCA. But either way, there's 100,000 shares on that bid. It might be nothing. But it might be worth going 1s or 2s with a 3 stop there, jumping in front of it. But I'm not really looking for that structured long idea. I like the setup there at AMC a little bit better.
I'm just going through the name of some. I'm just going through a list of some stocks that are actually moving around, and I noticed on the on my alert or scanner there, not on the alerts, but on the scanner there, ORMP is having quite the day. Damn. Okay, it started off at 580. Went as high as 860, and now is having a massive, looks massive, given how slow it went up. But quite the move to the downside here after putting in a new high at 880 and coming off to 816 and change. There's a lot of activity. I have no clue. I'm sure Brendan will bring us the info at some point when he gets it. But ORMP, for volatility and for anyone who wants to scalp, there you guys go. 13.5 million shares on the day, and it's got a $3.50 range. Yeah, that's the one you want to play if you're a scalper. You want the quick gains here and there, and if you want to structure something, you probably aren't going to find too many names because, as you can see, even Meta, was it Meta that you were trying to get in and out of? Meta,
Yeah,
right?
Meta, I couldn't
Meta, they're getting very precise with the turning points here on some of those names because you can put a bid and it comes down. There's not enough volume and it bounces right back, and that's the way it's playing the game right now on some of these names. But maybe ORMP is going to be one of those things that takes off that allows for an opportunity.
And thank you very much, True Trading Group Super Chat there, $50 in the Super Chat. Appreciate it very much. And look, it's a Friday. We're all having some fun here. And look, we don't ask anybody for anything, but we do appreciate our viewers all the time, whether you Super Chat us or not. I think it's super cool that the community respects us enough to do that. I did forget to mention, neglected to mention as I was going over CLVS and taking the hit on the last trade there. I did get into Upstart to that long, so I've been long twice, I've been short twice, now it's 3 times long on the weakest stock in the entire market as we do break that 2740 on Upstart. So hopefully this can get to that 28. I just think it has a chance to squeeze. It never took out that low after all. Brendo?
So on this ORMP, guys, there was a corporate update. They were talking about their current cash on hand. This is a little tiny pharmaceutical company. It's about 30 million, I believe, 33 million share float. 120 million market cap, so not huge. So they updated their current cash on hand and quarterly financials. There's also a CEO search apparently underway that is nearing an end, it would appear. But wow, that was a huge volume that just came in there at the top.
Well, there you go.
Massive. That was a bigger spike than I even realized. I gave it a glance and looked at the volume bar, and then I took a second look at it to realize that was like 1.4 million shares that got dumped there. And someone had asked in the chat like what I thought for levels on the stock when it just came up, and I said, look, it's such a strong move to the upside. I didn't really know too much about it that I would just said like at that point I'm just thinking 9 and 10. Is round numbers psychologically. And I think that's usually what happens when I don't have a stronger read on something. Looks like if you just shorted it at 880 or 875, everyone else agreed with you, but we can ring some registers on Meta as this time, and I'd be more aggressive here. I didn't get that 14 fill. I actually stepped up to 171.20 to be able to get some more shares of Meta out. And I'm going to keep going to this well. I might take shorts a little bit higher up each time. I guess I'll probably reload in the 70s, like 170, 170, and then try and scalp again, 30 to 50 cents, and then try and just keep reloading up until that 172, as long as we have not broken out on the futures. If we're taking fresh highs on the ES and or the NASDAQ, then fine, I can get away from that trade. But no, this has been a price level and a price band in Meta. I mean, I could draw some, it's actually useful to draw some lines here. That's been really good to me. It was that pre-market, so the opening range top at about 35, and then going into that 172. Like this has been that money spot for Meta all day long. There was one break, and then the second it rejected that breakout, got right back into the trade, and had been shorting that level ever since. And this is the thing about impatience, right? It happens. I don't care who you are. If you think you can be trading for 1,000 years, but unless you're a robot like Arun, you're going to get FOMO. And that's exactly what was starting to happen to me on Meta. I was out at the bottom at 169.50, and as it came back up, it's like, ooh, I like Meta short. Ooh, I like Meta short. Let's get it at VWAP. Let's get it at 170.80. No. I know the price level that I want to trade the stock. Sit around and wait for it. And if sometimes to make the trade, you've got to be willing to miss the trade. And if the trade is off this area here, then I've got to be willing to miss it if it makes a turn down around this level. That's the way that I trade. I'm not going to do well doing anything else. So I shouldn't try to do that, which is exactly what I did. And those are the losses that we had on Meta. So everybody can learn. Nobody is immune to that type of thing. It's just a matter of you manage your emotions and you try to play to your strength and sort of improve upon your weaknesses to the best of your ability. But we are all human. After all. So you're going to get FOMO. The question can be, can you learn from that mistake, not repeat it too many times or lose your entire day when that sort of thing happens? AMC, I'm only coming back to it because I understand people want to look at the stock and it doesn't really look like it wants to run away at this point. We haven't broken VWAP. We haven't broken 1470, but this doesn't feel like it's the runner that you might want it to be. It might turn out. And I'm only chuckling at this because if to end this day, the stock that runs to the high is not AMC and not GameStop and not Apple and not Tesla, but it's Upstart.
Of course.
It just goes to show you, you cannot close the door on any trading opportunity. Sometimes it's not about what you think about the company, it is about the setup in front of you and the price action. The market's going to do what it wants to do. It doesn't give a rat's you-know-what about the fundamentals sometimes, and it doesn't care about what your position might be. It's just about the price action, what everyone else is doing. And it's got a huge short interest. Big short interest means that A, there's people that have to cover in news events like this. When the stock's been beaten up from $400, and then the last earnings goes from like, that 84 down to like 30 or 25, whatever the heck the bottom was, and then it topped back out at 50 here. Like, it's been leaned on and has been cut in half so many times, like, forget about it. So at some point, shorts have to cover. At some point, shorts get trapped that are day traders, and then all you're left with is a long opportunity. So hopefully that works out for me here. But long Upstart just gives me a chuckle every single time. Meta now starting to roll over, so as Upstart goes up, Meta back in here, about 80 cents in the money. Look, I want to maintain a short position down toward that 169. The market rolls over from here. As far as I'm concerned, this is $2 to $2.50 trade. If I don't get a chance to reload, then I'm gonna hold on to this. That's what we did this morning. We scalped it out, but the second we got past VWAP, there was no more scalping. It was a breakdown toward that low of the day, and that's what I'm gonna play for here for the rest of Meta.
Listening to you talk about like FOMO and stuff, a couple things that I can just suggest. This for new traders, if you guys are just starting out and you want to you get caught up in all the excitement at times and you would just want to get involved. A couple things that I would say that help avoid that. One, or just to say, just completely avoid emotional messes on trades. One, I would suggest that you look at trades in terms of points and per cents and points that you're up or down, not how many dollars you're up or down, because a dollar figure will always change once your share size change. And the goal of a trader is obviously to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So that means that dollar figure is just going to expand, right? So if you kind of just concentrate on, I'm risking X amount of cents and I'm going to gain X amount of cents, and my whole thing is my risk profile is this and that, you're always going to adjust it to your account size, of course. But at the same time, your focus is not necessarily on the dollars, but on the points that you're looking at. And for me, when I look at futures trades, I have no issue standing in some of these trades, which could be considered fairly large trades for other people. I have no issue because I'm looking at them points. I'm like, oh, no, look, my trade's out this many points. I see the number because I'm able to put it up, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about the dollar figure. I'm worried about how many points I'm in or out. And the second thing I would suggest would be use larger time frames, right? I mean, the 1 minute is great, but you got to, it's really, really noisy, and two, it's easy to see too many things that aren't there. It's like seeing ghosts. In a trade, if I were to look at a 1 minute chart of any stock, you can pinpoint exact trades after. Let's just say you print out a chart, 1 minute chart of any stock, and you go through it, you're like, oh, I would have taken a short here, a long here, a short here. And then you were to go to a bigger time frame, you're like, oh yeah, that's a complete mess. And that's what I mean. Maybe something bigger, maybe a 5 minute, that helps a little bit better. I use obviously wider time frames, but at the same time, whatever works for you. But if you have FOMO, just zoom out a little bit. When in doubt, zoom out.
Yes.
Right? When in doubt, zoom out, and that'll help you put things in perspective for you, because then you can see somewhat of a bigger picture. So multiple time frames helps. Having a big one, having I guess a medium-sized one, and then one that helps you make decisions. That can work for you. For me, I've got two. Well, not two. Actually, I've got two. I've got a really big one, and then I'll use the 5 minute to kind of pinpoint my timing on the trades, right? So my really big one is like a flexible one. Sometimes I'll use a 60, sometimes I'll use a 30, sometimes I'll use a daily. But it's just to give me a bigger understanding of what the landscape looks like and what I want to do, and then I'll use the 5 minute to time those entries. But that's kind of how I approach it, and hopefully that helps when it comes to FOMO and just kind of emotionally managing your positions, because, hey, money matters, and if you're staring at the dollars, it's easy to make mistakes, either capturing gains too quickly and not letting them work, or just getting out of trades just because you're like, oh, I'm out too much. And then you completely forget about the fact that, hey, this trade was good until X, until this level, and we never let it get there because I thought I was down too much, or whatever the case is, right? So hopefully that helps out a bit.
You're damn sure it does. I'm going to hit that fist bump because I love that advice. It matters so much. Everyone here trades. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I kind of know that it's true. And whether it's myself, Sean, Arun, Brendan, Luca, Prad, Ian as well, the traders on the floor here. we're looking at multiple time frames. I know we show the short term, like I'll show you a lot of times for the executions the 3-minute chart because it's easier to show you the trade. But I'm always flipping back over to my daily and the daily for some trends and some big key levels. But that 15-minute, I love to lean on a 15-minute chart. I generally don't change this one. I keep a 15-minute up on any stock that I'm trading, and it just makes some sense. But it's more important what you said about points, man. I always like drawing the parallel from trading to poker, and I put this one in the chat. What makes Phil Ivey or Tom Dwan or whatever poker player you want to talk about be that much better than everybody else? Yes, they understand pot odds and they understand the rules and they know how to make decisions and evaluate decisions at a high level and they can think quickly. But overall, understanding like the correct plays, it's not overly complicated. I think if people are into poker understand that. But it's can you make those decisions the same way you would for a $10 pot and $1 million pot? And trading is the same way too. Like you have to have the ability to just say, no, it's a trade. This is my entry, this is my exit, this is my reason for being in, this is my target, this is my reason for being out, and then sort of forget about everything else here. I did just take a little bit out of this upstart trade as we just rejected 2760. I do have to show some respect for what happened this morning initially on the long, right? So the initial long, when we failed that 27 breakdown, this was pre-market, by the way. I should zoom in a little bit. We actually got up right around to this 70-80 area and then hard rejected and put in this consolidation at the open that we fell apart from. And that's where we're breaking out. So I kind of look at that range here and think that you could have some chop on the way. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I still like the trend. I'll probably try buying some dips in front of 27, but I'm going to try to scalp some out, respect the trend into 28 a little bit more, not just expecting, oh yeah, it's going to squeeze from here. It's 330. We've already mentioned we have to be flat at the end of the day, so I'm also running out of time for this to work as we have 15 minutes or just over that till the imbalances come out, and then I have to be out of all these positions at the end of the day. That also means AMC, just like yesterday's trade in AMC, I could just find myself in a position where there's no time for it to go, and you can like that long, and I think it was, I think I had this one in front of 14.20 in the afternoon, like later in the day, and just had to take it out. It was like 20, 30 cents. That might be all it is. So if I don't get stopped out here off that 14.70, it might not matter. I might just have to take it out 15, 10, small scalp wins. I might not even get the high of the day. However, we can revisit this on Monday. If we're still above this 14.70 level, we can use that for support. Great. I'll go back to that well, but there's not much you can do about the day ending, right? It's kind of like, some games have a clock on them, others are baseball. The market here for a day trader, it's got a clock on it, and we have to respect that. So you tighten stop. I tighten stops as we get closer to 350, and then we have to take profit a little bit sooner than we have to expect because we don't have the entire day for the move to happen, unfortunately. There's not much I can do about that.
Yeah, and I was going through the chat. You just reminded me, guys, we're at 937 likes. Neal's going to be spitting bars at 1,000 apparently.
No,
I completely forgot about this. But if you want to see Neal, or if you want to hear Neal throw some hard lines at you guys, get those likes. Oh, damn, it's already at 975.
They'll be clean, though. It's clean.
They'll be clean. 1K, there you guys go. There you guys go. They got it pretty quick there. 1K likes. Neal's going to be throwing something. He's going to be, at some point, he's been working on this too, so he knew you guys can get it to 1K, so he's been working on this. And we'll see what he's got because I think it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be very interesting to see what he's got.
Yeah, and everyone's always like, oh, Neal's going to do Rap God or something else like that. So, like, you guys can kind of tell. Like, I've got, like, a little bit of gray hair. I'm not the youngest guy out there. So, generally speaking, it's probably not going to be something from the last 5 or 10 years. That's all I will say. But I'm going to try to do something that I think a lot of people might not have heard before, which will hopefully be cool. If you have and you're a fan of a certain person that I probably dropped, I said this morning who it was going to be, then fantastic. I did want to come to some of the chip names here. We know we have like 25 minutes left to go, but we haven't really touched on AMD or NVIDIA here at any point this afternoon. That AMD 80 level, I'm kicking myself over it because I shorted the AMD 80 level only to be instantly stopped out. Like this trade was about 5 minutes long, and no, it wasn't 5 minutes. It was probably like 2 minutes before I was stopped out, reversing into a long. It was a good scalp trade. The reload stunk, and then it reestablished 80 as a fail. So remember what I just showed you on Meta, that target area, how that channel was perfect. So it was short, it breaks out, fails the break, and then just go right back to that same level at 80. Well, guess what? Same thing on AMD. So that target for the long yesterday at AMD We fail to break out above, all of a sudden it's a short at that level, it's a short back here in the afternoon. So when we talk about your learning experiences, well, you've got to go back and do this. Win or loss, up or down on a trade, go back and ask yourself, why in the heck was I just same way I'm reloading meta and the same way I'm holding meta short? I 100% should be in an AMD short based on the read that I had on the stock this morning and yesterday in its trade. Sure, it broke out, but it was very short-lived. The market is failing off those highs. Your resistance at 80 is back into play. So I should be in the short. I'm not, but we should go over those anyways. Just an idea to be sort of, you got to hold yourself accountable, right? And then NVIDIA is the same thing. It just happens to be 160, actually even weaker here because yesterday's high, after a failed 160 break, yesterday's high reestablishes itself as resistance, and now you're failing back down. Sometimes it's not that complicated, and we try to make it more complicated than it really is. Mohammed saying CCL hit $9. Really? You know, I haven't looked at CCL since I came back from camping. Low, come on, chart. Load, baby. I haven't looked at CCL all day, and the one time I want to pull it up, it gets performance anxiety pulling up the chart here. So I see it at $9 right now. There's about 30, 40,000 shares per book on the level 2. It actually got lower than this, but CCL with another poor day, relative weakness, it is down as the market is trying to hold in positive territory and might just fail to do so.
I see you guys. You guys want me on the backing, in the back here as a support.
As a hype man?
As a hype man, as whatever. For the safety of your ears, I'm going to keep my mouth closed because that is not something you want to hear. But another question in terms of, or answering another question in terms of futures here. Somebody asked me, how do you get started in futures? Remember, you have a couple options, and I'll go through this fairly quickly. You have a couple options when it comes to futures contracts. The small exchange provides a decent set of contracts as well, interest rate futures as well. That's a big thing on Fed days. And then the other thing you can go with is with CME Group or CME, where we trade the ESs. Now, if you're starting off, I would highly suggest not going to the full-size contracts or to the E-minis. These are leveraged at 50, so every point is $50. Don't do that. That's too expensive. You're going to lose money to learn, right? So it's going to be too expensive. Start with the micro version, which is kind of dedicated to newer traders that are learning and more accessible, because margin requirements as well, right? Margin requirements. One contract right now, I believe, sits somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 US in margin, in maintenance margin for an account. That's on your brokerage account. So if you don't have that, at least you can't even take one contract. So don't do that with the ES. It's a steep learning curve. That's why a lot of people kind of go with spiders instead. But you do have the micros available. MES is available for you guys on CME, and that's 10 times smaller. So you're looking at $5 per point instead of $50 per point, and that allows you to trade. Obviously, margin requirements are smaller because the contract value or the contract leverage is smaller, so it allows you to get access to the markets, trade the futures as a whole, and get a feel for it. And when you actually develop a strong enough strategy and you're like, you know what, I'm good, I have a large enough account, I'm doing well, I can graduate. And they do it on the floor here all the time. Everyone here, I think the majority of people that are here trade the micros. I know Prad does. Yes. I know a lot of people. I'm not sure who else trades the E-minis apart from me. So a lot of people here trade the micros because you're just starting off, right? You're going to learn. You have smaller shutdowns. It's bound to happen. So start with the micros. You have the MES for the S&P. You have the MNQ for the NASDAQ, and then you have the MCL for the that's NYMEX. Is it MCL? No, it's not. Oh, no, it is NYMEX. There we go. Micro crude as well. So you have access. One thing I would suggest, though, for anyone starting off, go to CME Group and check out. One thing I always check out, know the rules of the game you're going to play, right? If you're starting off with futures, know the contract specs on the futures, meaning days that they change over, what the leverage points are. So I went over to CME Group, looked for the E-mini S&P 500, went to specs at the top, and it tells me exactly what it is. 50 times 500, 50 times the index, so that's the leverage value. What times are open, what the outright fluctuations are. You have Globex hours, and then you have expiration dates. Know all of that, because the last thing you want to be doing is trading contracts when they are running out, especially on crude. because the delivery options are different, right? So just be aware of the game and the rules that the rules of the game that you're going to play, especially when it comes to the futures contracts.
Yeah, dropping signs. That's what it's about. And I think, look, it's so what's so true about that is every trader on this floor does start out usually with something that's a little bit lower risk to the ability that you can. When it comes to oil futures, I think you almost have to. There's just no question about it. I'm just going to go back over to Upstart here because I got the dip buy. We took this at quarters here, and I don't think it's not overly complex. Like I just sort of looked on the way up. Where was the consolidation? It was at 27, 25 to 30. So as it pulls back here, that's where I want to do the dip buy, at least the initial one. And then I'll get some out in front of 25s and hopefully around that 75 if we do get a move upside. I'm not saying we absolutely have to, but this is one that's been trending up going into the close. The market overall is coming down. I thought we'd get a reload in Meta as the market slightly, as it bounced off VWAP anyways, but this is a mistake I made before, which is sort of chasing it too far. But it's 340. At this point, if we come back to the high, I probably don't want to add to that position. If we get back up to 171, 171.75 or so, or close to 172, I don't need to get back into this with only 20 minutes left. So I'll just go with what we have. The closer we get to 350, I'll probably put a trailing stop in, probably down around this 20 to 30 area, lock in some profits here just to make sure we don't lose on the trade. AMC, I don't really have to worry about that too much. And the only reason I don't have to do anything with the trade is, well, my stop's already really tight here. Like I'm long at 81s and my stop is at 70. So at this point, it either runs my stop or I can hold it for any kind of a pop up. But I'm going to be selling any pop that we do get in AMC. There's really nothing else I can do about it there, guys. So we might not get a huge move overall. I don't really see any. We haven't got the early look on what the imbalances might be. But the market pulling back from those highs, which could have us hoping more than anything else for any kind of a bounce. Like the shorts, I think are going to come into play here. Upstart, there we go. That leg just worked out. So a little bit of a Superman. It gives you that 20-cent scalp again. We might not have time for this to quote-unquote squeeze. Like maybe it's going to do this next week. I just think the fact that we didn't take out those lows, and when we did this morning, it was a wipeout V-shaped bottom. It was a wick-off bottom. A lot of times that's bullish. It just never made the breakout. And now the breakout comes here at like 3:30. With minutes to go before the weekend. So Upstart 100% on the radar. Monday morning, if Upstart's still holding these lows, I think it has a chance to certainly squeeze. Might not be able to get it here today, but we can still make a few shekels as we try to play this off of these highs. So let's go Upstart to the upside. AMC, do something, anything, except go sideways. And then Meta, let's just see if you can continue falling. Because I'm either holding through VWAP into the close, or into 350, I should say, or we're going to have that tight stop as we get closer to these imbalances dropping. We'll get them for you live. I'm not expecting there's going to be anything gigantic here. Oh, wait a minute, 711 million to sell from Financial Juice. The early look on the imbalance is 711 million to sell.
That's
so it
unusual.
is to the sell side.
That's unusual, though.
Yeah, not that bad. I want to get to EV. I saw a couple of people ask about EVFM, and I never want to ignore them here. So Jay Herm, I think it is. I know we talked about this. I want to say it was yesterday. If it wasn't yesterday, my apologies. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. I know, I made a power move yesterday. I didn't trade it. Double top on this. But you know what's bullish about EVFM? If I can kind of pull back here. So and we loved it. We loved it when it made the run to the dollar because I was trading that 65, and then obviously I shorted $1 when it got there, but the long was a good one that day. But since it made that high at 150, look at it reject breaking below $1. So it breaks a buck. Makes a higher low at 80 cents, breaks a buck. We had that trade. It could only give you up to 15s. Breaks below, makes another higher low, so from 80 to 90 cent higher low. And then look at it the other day. Hold $1 like an absolute champion. Break out to a fresh high, make a double top. So now you got a lower high well above that $1. You got $1 as defense. Anybody in this long trade is like, I'm not getting out of this bad thing until it's a penny stock again. And you've got good support, lower high support. So it should be on our radars for next week. Today, nothing burger today, obviously. But as long as it's above that $1, you've got some good structured longs. I'm actually, I know why I'm not long this thing. I wasn't here. I'm like, why the heck wasn't I long off this $1 on Wednesday? Oh yeah, because I wasn't here on Wednesday. So camping is why I missed out on that long at 105 when we were darn sure taking it the last time it was at that price. So there's an opportunity cost to taking a vacation, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
No, definitely not. Take your vacations when you can get them. I'll be going on vacation in August, so we'll. I think you guys are taking a couple more days off between now and August. I think Sean is taking a couple more days off.
You got to take some time off, right?
If you're going to take time off, now's the time to take it off.
Summertime, baby.
Yeah, summertime. This is when supposedly things go quiet. Not today, though. 5 minutes, imbalances coming out. Quick run over on what we mean. Sorry for everyone who's watched this like countless amount of times, but if everyone knew, imbalances essentially just gives us an indicator of what the, how much interest there is in individual names at the end of the day. So we have something called an imbalance locator on our system here. Every broker should have their own version of this. It's a data feed that's being sent through the exchanges. So if your broker has programmed something, it's somewhere. You just got to figure out where it is. And it essentially gives you the symbol, the direction of the imbalance, how much shares needs to be bought or sold, and then how much has already been matched, right? So you add the two numbers together, the size and the PV is the paired value. That's the total size of the imbalance, but then the size itself is what hasn't been matched already. So that's the number that you're gonna focus on to add pressure to a name. If it's large enough, and we've seen it yesterday as well, I believe SWN was a big one in the past, and it's, for whatever reason, it's got a large imbalance, but the stock has done so much volume that it doesn't even matter at that point, right? So just keep an eye on these imbalances. We'll give you the update at 350, or I'll show you guys the update at 350 when it does happen. But it's going to be one of those things where after a day like today, is this market actually going to make a move? Now, Financial Juice, the Twitter update, it says that it's going to be sell side, 700 something million sell side. That's unusually large, I think, for a market that's kind of flat. I mean, 0.17 to the upside, and it's going to be 700 million whatever to sell. And on top of that, you got Apple and you got Tesla doing well. Okay, it'll be interesting to see if it is a sell, because if you get a sell side imbalance and you get large enough sells on some of these, I guess, larger names, and you probably will get some downward pressure right after about after the amounts come out, but preferably after 355 going into the end of the day. So keep an eye on those imbalances. Keep in mind, there's two sets of imbalances well, one set, but two updates. It's the initial 350 release, and then 355 is going to be the interest from the floor. So floor brokers and who they represent and whatever their clients that they're dealing with that want to send orders in for whatever the imbalances are, they want to take a look at the imbalances first, and then if they want to offset it at 355, their interest goes in, and then we go from there. So numbers change. 350, you get the first release, and then the numbers tend to change at 355. If the numbers get bigger in the same direction that it came out at, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. So for now, we're not expecting too much, but apparently 700 million. So we'll see how that one comes out.
And with that coming out, some of these trades have to come out. Otherwise, we're going to be sinking on this thing or whatever. I don't even know if that's like a lake or an ocean or whatever it's supposed to be. But yeah, you don't want to sink. You want to try to walk on water, which sometimes means taking the profits where they lie. Only 12 minutes to go in the day, 2.5 minutes till the imbalances, as Arun said. So I took another leg of upstart out. It's going to have to be at 27.50. So it looks like the 20-30 cent scalps off those longs are all that we're going to get here. At least I'm going to anyways. AMC, similar story, man. I got some out here when it popped up close to 14.90, and there's nothing. It sucks because you can end up holding this level, and then maybe we're gapping above, we're above 15, but there's really nothing you can do about it. Maybe we break 70s, who knows? I just know we're running out of time on the day for this to work, and it did the same thing yesterday. But someone asked, what are we looking for next week? I think anything that's like upstart. I'm still in it. I think I'm going to be looking at the same levels next week to start off with, and the same thing with AMC. Meta's resistance is obvious, that 72, 73 area. Until it's broken, I'm just shorting that stock at that price because it's worked. And the last time, eventually, all levels break. So, I mean, if it breaks that level, I'll be short the day that it happens. But until then, we're going to make money off it. But AMC, it keeps on holding and respecting. So it managed to hold that 14 today. Maybe that 1470 up here, maybe it's 1440, 1420, that area. That could be what we're looking for on Monday, but there's good support to continue that kind of a run. This stock has broken the 50 period. Just forget about all the other stuff for a second and then understand how tightly consolidated this has actually become. And then it's broken. And remember we said yesterday, it's going to close above the 50 period moving average and clean and well above it for 2 days now. Yeah, so that's a pretty bullish sign. I don't care what stock you're looking at. That's always been a bit of a bullish sign. So yeah, we're going to look for some longs on AMC here. It just might not work out this last one with only 11 minutes here to go, unfortunately. We'll revisit it 100% come Monday morning, that can be sure. And the same thing goes with Meta here. I do have to get out of that trade. However, this is deep enough in the money that all I'm going to do is put a trail in. And I said it would be around those quarters. Yeah, it'll be around 170, 125 here, just to make sure I don't lose on this trade in case the imbalances don't come out of sell. If that doesn't happen, if they come out of buy for whatever reason, I'll just get trailed out. But it won't be a losing trade on Meta.
Yeah, the thing with us like getting information off Twitter is it's a static thing. These imbalances are going to update. We don't know what the update is. Remember, we only know after 350. But these things in the background are changing. And we get a snapshot from somebody on the floor, that's why they're posting it, that, hey, at the moment it's this number. But until we get or they get the next update and they post it, this thing could have changed to a buy already. So that's the danger of trusting the imbalances are out. Sell side, yeah, they snapped down real quick and then snapped right back up. Okay, what do we got? 2.2 on the sell from BAC. SLB is the buy, makes sense. Energy up 1.82 on the day. And then Lyft and Ford. Okay, Lyft and Ford is being there are so weird. Buy side 1.2. So
Lyft isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Lyft, that's a big imbalance on Lyft. I mean, that's 10% of the day volume to be 1.2 million, but it's not moving at all. And then BAC was the other one. I think, look, Ford at 1 million, we've seen that story before, and Ford is like that high probability to pair off because it's so incredibly liquid, that stock. But BAC, 2 million to sell, that actually rolled over a little bit here through VWAP. So there might be a little something. I mean, like, you're probably going to talking like 5, 10 cent, maybe 15 cent trades if you get back into 90s. But BAC is worth monitoring. That 55 update will be important. Obviously, we're going to start running out of time here. So as I said, got to get out of some of these trades. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. But AMC could be done. I still have my stop in there. Upstart, I might just get out of this one manually. As overall, I still, given the imbalances weren't gigantic, the overall move has been rejecting the top. So that kind of leads me to believe, okay, well, even if it's not overwhelming one direction or the other, what we were doing was sliding off the highs. So let's sort of favor that notion. I'm going to get out of Upstart right here. Looks like all we're going to get is just still tight to those 40s and those 50s. So the breakout didn't really pay you much. The reload, it paid you 15, 20 cents at best. It's a winner, but I still say it's a disappointment. I just felt like at some point the stock was going to squeeze if it didn't go. Even Meta, if we bounce one more time off VWAP, I'll just cover it here and just sort of take that 70 cents and run. But I still want to give this one room. If I think the market could be falling here off those highs, well, I'll give it a chance to do so a little tighter to that close. We'll let this one work for us here. AMC is about 4 cents away from stopping me out. I've just left my stop in at this point. And yeah, I mean, Corey Waters Monday Upstart will squeeze. I've got my new saying. It's if it doesn't break the low, there's only one place to go. And I say that, by the way, the reason I came up with that is because I got my ass handed to me on Robinhood when everybody thought Robinhood after the last report was a short. I mean, everybody did. But it halted to the upside. I told myself the exact same thing. If it doesn't get to the low, I've seen it happen before. And then I still shorted twice and stopped out twice. Instead of thinking about a long trade in Robinhood. So now every time I remind myself of that, when you've got one of these high short float names, which is already beaten up and gaps down 15 to 20% on earnings or on some kind of a negative catalyst, my first thought is, well, it's already down so much. If it doesn't show you follow through at the open, sometimes you just got to buckle up and go long because that's the trade in front of you.
Yeah, and just be smart about your trades. That's all you can really do. As you can see on my board, obviously, actually the board's not there. When it flips back over, you'll see I had a position in Amazon that's been dumped. So essentially, what I'm using is I'm running out of time, especially with the way we trade. We got to be flat by the end of the day. I have some flexibility on getting out just post market, but at the same time, I'm going to be trying to get out before or around 4 o'clock. And Amazon, I'm running out of time. That trade was not going to work out. So as it got closer to being flat, I just started dumping Amazon. Amazon, I'm flat on now. I made the spread and covered the cost of the trade. That's all it was. I'm not trying to make any money on it. I don't have time. So I'm dumping it as we go. And I'm doing the same thing for BA, Meta, Nvidia's. there's no way Nvidia is coming down $1.50 to get me out. But 350, when that comes out, 355, when that comes out, when that update gets released, we'll see how this market reacts to that. I might get a chance to get some of these out for flat. If not, I'm going to have to get them out as we get into the end of the day. I just got to be smart about how I get them out. But for now, 355 is going to be the next update that we're paying attention to. And since these imbalances came out, I mean, we're getting updates. You can see the market time section here on the right. They're updating, but they're not changing. There's no interest in changing this imbalance. BAC is still there, SLB is still there, Lyft is still there, and Ford is there to round it out. And that's all we're getting. So at 355, if these numbers change, that's when the game really starts, because Lyft, like Neal said, is unusually large. Lyft has only done, well, actually only 13 million shares. Damn, that's a lot.
That's actually a lot.
That's actually a lot for Lyft. It's getting smaller. So I didn't realize Lyft had done 13 million shares on the day. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it is too small for this market today. But keep an eye on Lyft, because it's not a stock that typically shows up on these imbalances. And then Ford is always there, BAC always there, changes direction, who cares? And SLB, energy, play. I mean, what's really left there? Brendan.
It is Friday. That means no earnings today, no earnings Monday morning. But get set, guys, because it's kicking off again next week. And I mean, earnings season. Thursday morning, we get JP Morgan, we get Morgan Stanley. That will start things off going into the big banks, which will get back into earnings season. So more earnings to come. We get CPI data as well on Wednesday next week. So that's going to be a big market moving event as well. So lots to look forward to coming up next week. The next Fed meeting is not until the following week. So CPI first, and then we get the Fed meeting the following week, guys.
Bank earnings. Yay, it's a chance to dump some more money into, maybe dump some more money into Morgan Stanley, depending on the report. I think that actually might be pretty solid there. But thank you, Marvin Key, for the super chat, by the way. Have a fantastic week. I mean, everybody have a fantastic weekend, but thank you so much for your support. And then thank you guys for mentioning, we look at names that have these imbalances at the close, anticipating that's what's going to have moves. Yeah, but look at Pfizer, man. Like Pfizer, look at another impressive V-shaped bottom here, but Pfizer dumping a little bit going into the close, just breaking VWAP and finding some momentum. Oddly enough, like you've seen the vaccine names have been relatively strong. So what that just sort of feels like to me was profit taking into this close. It's been a pretty good week, bouncing off VWAP here. Just a gut feel that it's maybe finding some selling at previous resistance in front of 54 and people taking profit as it goes down. AMC, we're like 1 cent away from our stop out. And even Meta, I got to get out of this bad boy to be sure. I can sit there and have a tight stop, but it's kind of getting ridiculous. I might as well just get out in front of 171 if I can. Take the profit and run. We're now down to like 3 minutes to go here on Facebook. This has been an absolute gift on Meta. It's like, and I can't stress this enough. I'm going to be going. There's the stop out on AMC, so now I have no positions left. So the last trade, losing trade. And the last time I trade this short on Meta, it'll probably, unless something ridiculously bad happens to this market next week, I'm probably going to take the L at some point shorting these levels. The trades didn't show up for my yesterday for some reason, but either way, we've been all over this on Facebook. Since we highlighted this level, it has been absolutely gold. And I get it, at some point this will stop working, but you better not believe it. We're going about that level as much as we can. Do not forget how strong some of the moves were in crypto. I forgot to talk about a Coinbase trade. Yeah, I had Coinbase off the high today, and it failed down to VWAP, yada, yada. That's all well and good. Who cares? All I care about for Coinbase is how strong this has been off this 44 level. Like you almost put a 50% move off a 44 double bottom from bottom to top on Coinbase. So these are levels we want to respect. I think what could be coming up next if we show strength in the market is a breakout from 65. And given how strong Coinbase has looked, you've got $70 in the 50 period looming. You've got $80 in its recent capitulation high. Those are reasonable targets if it can break out of this channel. So Coinbase needs to be on our radar. I've only been shorting it on pops, and I feel like that's been kind of it's been a mistake. I've missed out on lots of long opportunities in Coinbase because I keep saying to myself, ooh, well, if it pops to this level, I like to short. If it goes to that level, I like to short. Well, that's all well and good, but it's got to go there. And when it goes there, people are buying it, which means it's going up. And we got to take advantage of it. Don't forget, you want to stick around because we did get to past that 1,000 likes. So I will be dropping a few bars. I'm not sure who's going to be on the bell today. We have about 90 seconds to go. I think it's going to be a little bit of a surprise. Oh my goodness! Yeah, we have a new member of the team here in the back, and it's going to be Cheyenne. We met, and I didn't get a chance to introduce myself grabbing coffee this morning. So Cheyenne's going to get a chance to ring the bell. Always fun to have a new member of the team ringing that closing bell with just a minute to go. I will note that BAC paired off So it looks like that imbalance is gone. The imbalance on lift is also paired off, so that's a bit of a nothing burger as well. Although BAC did continue selling with the rest of the market here minutes ago, and it looks like those shorts, I mean, you see you're flat now. They came in, but they came in a little bit late, right?
Just run out of time, right? I'm just dumping my positions, or I'm just working my way as the market comes in, working my way out of it. Remember, we got to be flat, so I can't hold on to this forever. But hey, you know what? This market's giving you something. It's giving you information on the day, so come back on Monday. Sean will be back. Neal will be back. I won't be here, but you got your dynamic duo back with Brendan there. And you guys, I'm sure there's going to be some excitement because this market is setting up something. It's just a matter of what is it setting up and when do we get going.
Look, just like last time, it was a couple of weeks ago on Friday, I will drop it after the market closes. We'll do the bell, we'll get the recap, then we'll drop some bars. We'll have some fun doing it. We got Cheyenne on the bell here, and here comes the countdown, one of our newest employees, new member of the team. Welcome to the family. Here's your chance. Ring it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
That's it.
That's all good.
That's all we got. There you go.
There is no science to ringing the bell. You do it however you darn well want to do it. If it's one bang, then that's all it has to be. If you want to do like that whole Randy thing where like I've lost my hearing because he just rattles at it. I hate it. It's a bit frustrating, but thank you, Cheyenne, for doing that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We know with this market how it ended up here, but let's take a look at that big board if we get a chance here, Brendan, because I think everyone's waiting for something, and I got to knuckle up.
Yeah, it was a kind of a nothing type of day, really nothing to see here at the end of it as well. Here's how we wrap things up. Basically flat for the S&P, exactly flat, in fact, for the Dow, 0.17 to the upside for the NASDAQ. Crude oil with a nice gain as well today, 1.8% back to the upside after a very, very volatile week with crude. Bitcoin and Ethereum positive, guys, on the week. But it started off kind of choppy and flat, and guess what? It ends the same way.
Yeah, it seems like a nothing burger. I know Trader Prad said, oh, yeah, the day's doing nothing. Yeah, sure, we're flat across the board, but the trading opportunities were definitely huge. And so we took advantage of it. So I hope you enjoyed it. We got to the 1,000 likes. So I'm not going to tell you the rapper. If you guys can guess the name of this song and who it is, then go for it. But let's drop it right now. Ready for war, Joe, how you want to build a spot? I know this dirty cop that'll get us in if we blow up his spot. Hop in your Hummer, the Punisher's ready. Meet me in Beatles with noodles, we do this while he's slurping spaghetti. Everybody get down on the floor, Joe be crying, get them all. If they move, noodles get them at the door. Dead in the middle of little did he know that we riddled some middlemen who didn't do diddly. Bars.
Damn.
That was for that.
Damn. I was not expecting that. I don't know if you guys were expecting that, but damn.
Hey, you know the best thing about it too is forget about 1,000 likes. If I'm just gonna be able to get a free beer out of this every time I do it, I'll do it every single week. So Friday was fun. I want to give a shout out to the entire team. Thank you so much. Cheyenne, new member of the team there. Everybody's on the 1s and 2s right now. So if you get a picture of it, I see Cheyenne, I see Liz there, I see Mark putting in work, I see Fahad. Somewhere in there is Maggie and where are you guys? There you go. Somewhere in there is Maggie and Lucas as well. They make us look and sound fantastic. My main man, Sean, is definitely dropping one of these on the beach. He will be back next week. Arun, thank you for filling in, doing a fantastic job. We love you, brother. Brendan dropping the news for us all day. And the midday show. I said, Prad, you're next to drop some bars. I mean that. I hope you're practicing. Luca, Ian, thank you so much. Brankles, of course, doing a great job with... I just want to drink this. I want to drink this right away. Doing a great job helping out with our free watch list every single morning. And welcome back, Greg, our floor manager. He's back from vacation. We are back next week. This is Trader TV Live. We'll see you on Monday.